So COVID's happening. I don't know if you've heard of it at all, but
Am I what at all?
yeah, this COVID, this virus that's going around.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you know,
Yeah.
you might have known something. You might have heard like something on the news here and there. So that's happening.
Yeah, heard of it.
And so we have you know, a lot of moms are making really difficult decisions right now. And so you know, one of the big ones, which a lot of people are forced to make this decision now, even though conditions are changing very rapidly, like you have to make it now, is what are you doing about school next year?
Yeah, that's a tough decision, right? And I don't think there's a right answer. I believe that that's a decision every parent has to make. Circumstances are so individual, right? For where you live and what's going on in your community and your health system, you know, your health of you and your family. But I think we just have to all get great at following our own instincts, which often we suck at because we don't trust ourselves because we want the world to tell us who to be and what to do. So my biggest advice is to stop looking outside, like get your data, get your information, understand the situation, but then shut it off. There's so much fear, there's so much noise, there's so much, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Right? Like, this is a very personal decision. And I believe there's no right or wrong answer. There's just what feels right to you. And I think moms just have to get okay with deciding what's right for them and sticking to it and not getting second guessing and doubting. I mean, you can change your mind. You can always change your mind, but it's not like, if you accept there is no right or wrong answer, there's just two options. The pressure to pick the right answer is a little less, right? Like, what feels like the least awful option? If you have to frame it that way, like, so be it. Because the truth is that's kind of what we're choosing from. So we have to trust ourselves. And it's not easy, but I think we make it harder than it needs to be too.
Yeah, I love that. You know, the pressure to stop figuring out what the right answer is.
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to do? Right?
Nobody knows.
Why does someone else have the authority more than you to decide what the right answer is for you and what you're supposed to do? Don't get me wrong. Like you said, it's our responsibility to seek out quality information and to make informed decisions by all means, right? This isn't a matter of like, well, you know, let me just close my eyes and decide what, you know, what is a fact in the universe. No, like do your research, like find things out, find high quality sources of information. Like, that's absolutely your responsibility. But then when it comes to deciding what's good for you or your family, there is no what's supposed, you're the authority. Like, you right there, you are the authority on what you and your children are supposed to do.
And whatever you decide, someone's going to disagree vehemently. So just, that doesn't mean you're wrong and they're right. It doesn't mean you're right and they're wrong. It means you have a different opinion.
Yes.
And that's okay.
Yeah. And sometimes it'll be family.
And people might be mad about your decision. That's okay too. Like, get great at making great decisions for yourself and your family. And then what other people think, it doesn't matter, because you respect their ability to make their own decisions.
And totally be open-minded, like, to someone in a compassionate way, expressing a point of view. By all means, be open to changing your mind. But it's not because that person said it. You know, like, yes, you should be open to new information. Yes, you should be open to learning and growing and making new decisions, but not because somebody told you you're wrong. Like, that's a totally different thing. Right? Totally. Like, it's you take the information in, and it could be well-meaning people. It could be your own, you know, family or friends who are so concerned about your child that they feel the need to speak up out of their morality to tell you how much you're effing up. And that still doesn't mean that you're wrong. You get to decide, and you also are responsible and have to deal with the consequences of it, but no one else is an authority more than you. You can't be looking outside to other people as and you definitely can't make a decision based on who's going to approve or what kind of reaction you're going to get from people. Like, if that's how you're making your decision, like, well, if I do this, so-and-so is going to say this, or so-and-so might think that, or like, that's not the place to come from.
And this is the thing, is there's so much fear going around, and to some degree it's warranted, right? Like, obviously there are real concerns. Not trying to minimize those, But there's also a lot of fear mongering and a lot of noise and a lot of sensationalism and a lot of straight conspiracy theories. And there's so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I personally just don't believe in letting fear dictate my life. I believe in making a decision from, right, like a place of, like things are gonna go right. Like again, it's not meant to be ignorant about it. It's like, it's what are the facts? What is real? And when you know that you are making the best decision you can with the information you have, if something goes wrong, or let's say something happens and you're like, oh my god, I shouldn't have, like, you don't get to beat yourself up about your decision. You have to accept you're making the best decision you can, and if something changes, you'll make a different decision. There's none of this, oh, I should have done this, or I did that, or I got it wrong. Like, take that pressure off. You're making the best decision you can with the information you have at the time. If something changes down the road, then you make a different decision, or you adapt and you handle, and like you said, you deal with it. It doesn't mean you got it wrong. It means you did the best you could with what you had at hand. And the truth is, we have a lot of not great information at hand in a lot of situations. So it's not ideal, but it is what it is. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe in hysteria, and I don't believe in freaking out. And I don't believe in worst case scenario doomsday prophecy. I believe in, it is what it is. And based on what it is, make the best decision that you can.
Yeah, totally. 100%. And then whatever decision the people around you are making,
respect
them in it, respect it, and support them.
So it's a hard decision.
Yes, it's a hard decision, and there are so many, there are pros and cons to all of it, right? Yep. And you don't know what's more important to someone's values. So my personal thought line of thinking when I was making this decision for my son was, he is on the spectrum. He's high functioning autistic, and he is really strong academically. So I wasn't so much worried about that, but his social skills are where we need the nurturing. And I was like, should I be keeping him out of school when he could really use this socialization? Now, my concern with sending him to school, one, it would be much harder. That's a factor. It would be harder for me, harder for him. Two, and I'm like, what are the benefits, right? So, first of all, how effective is this going to be? Now, maybe the school pull it off beautifully, and I predicted wrongly, but I think it's going to. This is like some unprecedented. I think it's going to be really messy. Mm-hmm. So, I don't see like the value academically. Like I don't really see there being much more value with him going there versus me doing my, really crappy job trying to homeschool him while I'm also like working multiple gigs, right? Yeah. So there was that, and then I'm like, but the social skills. So I just texted, the other moms in his class. We have a chat group, and it turns out most of them aren't sending their kids to school. So I could agonize over it. I'm like, you know what? He's not getting the social skills. He's fine academically. I don't think there's going to be much academic growth in that environment anyway. This is what I'm doing. And that's me. Now, if I, let's say, lived with my grandparents, totally different line of thinking when you talk about a virus that affects older people. And, it doesn't matter. Like everyone, no matter what their situation, I know people who are lower risk, like I am and like my son is, and they're just still equally, they're like, I do not want to get this virus. I don't want my family to get this virus. All right, awesome. Like that's cool. Like everyone has their own values and their own priorities.
Yeah, and I'm sending all four of mine to full-time school. Like that was actually the older two are in like middle school, and they're doing like a hybrid because of the number of people in the building. So they're going like 2 days and then virtual 2. That is the only option. Mm-hmm. But I have a kindergartner and a second grader, and they're going 5 days a week in person. Now, will that change? Probably. Will it be, I have a new kindergartner, and we went back and forth. But I talked to my family doctor. We, looked at the school plan of how they're handling it, and it felt okay. It felt like the right choice for us. And I'm home, like I'm at home. My husband's working home. So like, It's not a childcare issue. It's not like we have no other choice. Like we have the option to stay here, and it felt like the right choice for us, weighing all things. And I think you just have to make the best choice for you. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah, totally. And also like everyone's child is different. Like for some kids, going to school in that, like, you know, having that normalcy of going to school, being around their friends, people will see that as like beneficial. Or maybe the academic enrichment that they get from that is something that they see as more beneficial for their kid.
Totally. Like my daughter is modeling her masks for kindergarten. She's so excited to wear her mask. She thinks it's an accessory. She wants to go be fabulous and go to kindergarten because she is like a late birthday, so she's going to be 6. So she's like been waiting. She's so excited. And, you know, it's like, but someone else's kid might be very anxious about being in this new environment and not knowing where, you know, masks and distance. And so you absolutely take all of that into consideration. And I would never presume to know your child, your situation, what's best for you or anyone else, right? So if we wouldn't want other people to do that to us, let's not do it to other people, but let's also use that to fortify our own strength and our own ability to make the right choice for us, because no one knows our family like we do. Stop asking people for advice. Stop asking, like, you can reach out and say, you know, what are you doing? But make that decision for yourself, for your family. That's your job, is to lead your family, not do what everyone else is doing. So you know what's best. Just trust yourself. That's the key, is you got to trust yourself, not to be perfect, not to get it right, but to make the best decision you can with the information you have.
Totally. And sometimes you will make mistakes, and sometimes you will get it wrong, and like that's it. Absolutely. So like if you're the parent who thinks it's best to send your kid to school now, and then they end up like carrying COVID to you or getting it themselves or whatever, that doesn't mean that you're wrong or you're bad. And yes, there will be people judging you and all of that stuff, but there's risk in everything. I mean, most of us drive cars every day. Everyone knows someone who died in a car accident. And so are you going to be like, well, that's because you drive the car. What was wrong with you? You know that could happen. Like, there's always going to be that person. And you have to decide with all those factors weighing in, and then, accept whatever happens. And that's okay. And don't let those, those naysayers and the judgmental people get you down.
Yeah. You know what? We're all just doing the best we can. We all are doing the best we can. I might really disagree with something another mom is doing, but I agree with her right to make that decision, from this to everything else, right? And like, we just have to do the best. It's good enough. We are good enough. You are good enough. All of you, like, you are capable and uniquely qualified to answer this decision for your family. Trust yourself. You don't have to get it perfect. You just have to do the best. It's enough.
I like that word capable, because that's the thing. Like, what makes you assume other people are more capable than you?
Yeah, they're probably not.
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
Less capable. They don't know your family. They don't know you. They don't know your kid. Even if they know them, nobody knows your kid like you do, or your family, or your hunches, those nudges, those whispers. Like, no one else knows what you're feeling. Trust those, right? Like, do the research, have your information, but your gut will lead you the right way when you listen to it, even if it doesn't make sense, right? Like, you could look at everything and say, there's no reason that I should keep them home, and yet I feel I need to. Trust that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And so then when this all starts up, there's probably going to be a lot of predictable obstacles that moms are facing, right? So if you send your kids to school, there may be some reactions to the new environment. There may be some chaos with the curriculum, if you're sending them, part-time, because that's the only option, like the AB schedules, kind of what they're offering here. And I was like, why? I mean, by the time they get back into the routine of why, I know my kid, and I'm just like, talk to his dad, we're not doing it. But whatever, like, if you send them, like, that could be something that you're dealing with on top of the fact that you have all your normal responsibilities to deal with. Or if you're trying to do remote learning, now you're working and trying to be a teacher, or maybe you're hiring, maybe you're like coordinating with a family member who's going to be quarantined safely to do the teaching, whatever it's going to be. There are going to be insane challenges. And so like
and
let's
it
talk about
disproportionately
mindset.
affects mothers. Let's just be honest.
Huh?
It disproportionately affects women and mothers. The burden of this falls to women most of the time, to do the homeschooling or to solve the problems or to find the help, right? Like we are picking up the pieces of this. I'm not going to sit here and like, oh, it sucks, but it does. Like women really do. It falls to us disproportionately.
Yes, disproportionately. And, you know, shout out to all of the, you know, wonderful like fathers, grandfathers, anyone out there where like this is, you know, where it's not that case. But if you look at the overall picture, yes, disproportionately, it's falling on women more.
Even with great
in overall sense.
And, you know, like if the woman's typically, like if the woman's career isn't as advanced, or if she was the primary caregiver, but now she's back to work, and so it falls to her. Like it's, you know, it really is. I've read some interesting articles around how this is like really women are carrying the brunt of this. Not to mention most of young school teachers are women who now are dealing with going to the classroom and dealing with their own children, right? So I mean, this is not a great situation for sure, but we get to choose how we see it and who we become. I always, when this whole thing started, which I, you know, thought I thought it was going to be a little faster than it is. Obviously it's been going on, but the question I'd ask some of my clients and people that in my community was, okay, we can complain about this all day long. We have plenty of reasons to, but the truth is you can use this time to say, when all of the dust settles, and this is a memory, and someday it will be, who do I want to be on the other side of this? What do I want to let this time either teach me or help me appreciate? And this was, I was talking about this back when we were like all stuck home and everything was closed, and it was such like, there is so much opportunity in the things we resist. So while it is a huge struggle, and it's not to minimize the real challenges it poses to mothers and families and teachers and healthcare workers and all of that.
Totally. And those who have been affected, gotten sick, lost
of course,
loved ones. Yeah, totally.
Fighting for their life or lost their lives or loved ones.
Yeah.
Who do you want to be when this is done? Do you want to be somebody that grumbled and complained and hated life through all of it? Or somebody who really was able to maybe not only rise up and dig deep, but you have learned new skills, qualities, things about yourself, resiliency, or maybe you just are able to appreciate things in a new way. Maybe you're able to realize things that you didn't have time for, now you have time for, right? There's so many opportunities if you look for it. It doesn't diminish the challenges, but it allows the experience to be very different.
100%. And, you know, just like echoing that last point you made, just because you can cherish some of the experiences you're having right now and you find opportunities, that doesn't mean that you're not appreciating how serious the situation is. Right? So like the situation, like there are things about it that suck. You know, whether it's the economic, obviously, like so much, especially here in New York. You're in Florida, right?
I'm in Illinois.
Illinois, okay.
Yeah, we're okay.
Yeah, okay, awesome. Yeah, so
relatively, yeah.
You know, New York, it's like, you know, everyone knows a bunch of people who have had it. Everyone knows people who have been lost. Like, it's that kind of thing. And so, yeah, it's like, you know, you can, but there can be both, right? So in the situation, like, people are suffering, you know, health-wise, economic, lives lost, the grief over the lives lost, that is very real.
Yes.
And that's happening no matter, like, that's what we can't control. Yeah. So that's going to happen whether you take any, you know, whether you take advantage of some of the opportunities that are present in this situation or not.
Totally.
Right? And so just because you take advantage, like if you use this time to reach some goal or to do something in your life or just to enjoy things that you didn't have time to enjoy, you know, that doesn't mean that like, oh, well, so now this was a good situation, or like those can coexist equally. Like
it's such a great point, because I think I know that we as women, like we feel guilty enjoying ourselves if other people are suffering, but you don't, it's not either or, right? It's absolutely an and. Like, it's like saying I'm not going to eat because there are children in another country who are going hungry. it doesn't actually help anything. You just punish like, that's the most ridiculous thing ever. You can do good. And in fact, you will do more good for the people you want to help by being in a positive mindset, by resting, by growing, by coming out of this and saying, you know what, I'm going to advocate for a better healthcare system. I'm going to work to reform this education system that did not support our kids in this time. Like, you come out of this and you go fix problems, you go help the world. Sitting around feeling awful and miserable and wallowing in what's happening doesn't help anybody. It doesn't. Like, you can have empathy and compassion, of course, but we don't have to beat ourselves up. We don't have to punish ourselves because maybe we don't know anybody's affected, or because our life has been relatively unaffected financially or economically. Be grateful, but don't be guilty. Our self-flagellation does not make the world a better place. It's an ego thing that we tell ourselves that, like, we're better if we suffer, or some BS around, like, it doesn't help anybody.
Yeah.
It's literally feeding your own ego. If you think about it that way, it kind of feels icky. So stop.
Yeah.
Be grateful for what you have. Make the most of this time. Do good where you feel called to do good. Have empathy. But suffering needlessly because you feel guilty is just unproductive. It's a waste of time.
100%. You know, like, I can say that, so for a long time, like, any of the listeners who know my backstory know that things have been rough for a bit, and they started getting better. And, like, I've been, like, just wishing for a boring year. Yeah. And I kept saying, like, it was just like, just give me one boring year. I just wake up, I work, I stop working, I go to sleep. Like, you know, just give me a boring year. No crises, no fires to put out. Give me that boring year. 2020, ironically, has been that boring year for me that I've been wishing. I mean,
extra boring.
I've been wanting nothing more than to be able to work from home. I've been working my butt off to be able to work from home 100% of the time for years. You know, and you know what online business is like, right? Like, the first 2 years, it's like you're doing it and you're not really getting much in return. You're, like, setting a foundation, you know, and especially if you're doing it part-time around something else. So you know what that's like. So everything I've been wishing for, ironically, like, just magically was thrown in my, like, here's 2020 for you. And I'm just like, this is amazing. Not the whole situation, just that one bit. That one little, and I'm going to I am cherishing this time with my son. I am cherishing being able to parent the way I want to. It's so much more difficult to parent when you're sharing care, when you're only seeing them an hour or two a day, you know, and thankfully I'm still able to provide. My financial situation is better than it's ever been. You know, I'm cherishing this time. This one little bit has been like a miracle. And there's also a lot of suffering, and I feel compassion and sympathy for everyone who's suffering. And I did have a loss, you know, and I grieved that loss, and still am upset about that loss, and, you know, what it means for people who were, you know, even closer to the person than I am. All of that, those are all coexisting.
You get to have it all. You get to have it all. And, you know, life is meant to be messy and heartbreaking. And we say we want it all good all the time, but we don't really, because it doesn't show us what we're made of. It doesn't stretch us. It doesn't teach us to appreciate. And I love, so Glennon Doyle, I've been like, we go way back into her blogger days. And I don't know if you've read any of her stuff, but she talks about, you know, we think our job as parents is to protect our children from pain, from heartbreak, from disappointment, when in reality, those are the very things that are going to shape them into the people we want them to be. You don't become a compassionate person without having your heart broken. You don't become brave without overcoming something. And our job isn't to protect them from the fire, it's to teach them that they're fireproof and to walk through it with them. And we're the same, and our kids are the same. And yeah, I want this to be over as much as the next person, right? But we can look for the unique opportunities to really walk through it and show our kids who we can be in the face of an unprecedented, at least in the recent history, modern history, global pandemic. Who do we want to be? How do we want to face adversity? Do we want to believe in the good in humanity and in ourselves, or do we want to fall apart and let fear just make us look back and say, I don't even know what happened that year. Like, I was just getting in fights on Facebook with strangers about conspiracy theories, and or you just turn it off and you go on a walk, or you play with your kids and say a prayer, make a donation, like do what you feel called to do for others, of course. But the best way is to honor what you have by appreciating it, by enjoying it. That's the best way you honor those who don't or who are struggling.
100%. I mean, that was beautifully said.
Go read Untamed. If you haven't yet, everybody go read Untamed. It is like the Bible every woman needs to read on being her most authentic self and living a completely true life. Like, so good. So good. So good.
Awesome. Well, I'll have to go read it then. Anyway, it's been so good chatting with you. Like, it's an absolute pleasure. Yeah, and also Instagram's gonna kick us off very soon.
I got bedtime coming up for the kiddos, so
yeah, no, totally. Yeah. So I can't wait to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Definitely. So everyone who's listening or who's watching the recording of this on IGTV, definitely make sure you are following both of us, and check us out, superbusymommycoach.com and
EmilieKarun.com.
Perfect. And we're going to be on the Badass Moms podcast. That should be out within next several weeks. Like, usually it takes month or two. Look out for it. So make sure you're subscribed to the Badass Moms podcast, brought to you by the Holistic Therapies Directory, so that you're notified when you can hear Emilie, drop her awesome empowerment bombs.
I love it. It's been so fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Talk soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, bye. Yay!
That was so fun.
That was so much fun. Okay, so I just don't want my phone to lose.
Oh wait, hold on. I can't hear you. What did you say? I'm turning you back up.
Oh, okay. I'm just gonna quickly get this on IGTV before it magically